Welcome back to the Cover 3 podcast here on CBS Sports. That's Danny Cannell, that's Bud Elliott, that's Tom Fernelli. I'm Chip Patterson coming to you live on CBS Sports Network. Fired up to get you set for the week ahead in the Big Ten. Lots to get to, including our big game breakdown, the keys to the game, the X factors for a massive game for the undefeated wagon that is the Indiana Hoosiers as they welcome Michigan in the big time game on CBS. But first, we're going to go more towards the middle of the Big Ten standings. No, not necessarily locked in on those teams right at the top like Indiana. What about those teams that are going to have a little bit of perspiration coming down the stretch? Boys, we're going to play a little game of bowl or no bowl. Teams that are kind of on the cut line for trying to reach bowl eligibility. We will start with the Wisconsin Badgers. Now, Wisconsin is 5-4. Their remaining schedule, they're off this week. They have Oregon at home, at Nebraska, the Minnesota at home. Danny Cannell, bowl or no bowl for Wisconsin?
I have Wisconsin. By the way, I also did grades for all these teams because I screwed up the assignment. So if you want a grade for all of them, I'll let you know. But I say, yes, they go bowling. But I'm a little bit nervous about it because I'm worried about what version of Wisconsin am I going to get? Am I going to get the one that goes out there and blows out Purdue or Rutgers and Notre Dame? Or am I going to get the one that gets blown out against Iowa? But I don't think any of their remaining opponents outside of Oregon, of course. So they have to get one at Nebraska, who is really limping themselves, or home at Minnesota. I say they get one of those and potentially both. I'll say Wisconsin does go bowling. I think they've been getting better and better. The Iowa one I'll look at as an aberration and say, with Iowa's new look offense, which looks like the Kansas City Chiefs all of a sudden, I'm going to say maybe that one just got a little bit sideways. I think they can get a win against Nebraska or Minnesota, so I'll say yes, they go bowling.
I'm with Danny. They're not going to run into anybody who's as good as Brendan Sullivan down the stretch, of course. Well, except for maybe Max Brosmer and Dylan Gabriel. But no, I think those 3 wins they ripped off had a lot to do with who the teams were. They were playing with Purdue and Rutgers and Northwestern, and specifically who was missing for those teams, especially in that Rutgers game. But I do think the odds favor Wisconsin going to a bowl, picking off one of Nebraska or Minnesota, probably not Oregon. So I'm going to go bowl.
I'm also going bowl, but it's not with the highest level of confidence. I give them maybe like 0.3% chance of beating Oregon in that game, and then it's going to come down to, can they go on the road and beat Nebraska, which maybe they can. Nebraska did just lose at home to UCLA, so it's not exactly like it's a fortress there right now for the Cornhuskers. But I do think it's going to come down to that last game of the season, the Friday after Thanksgiving at home against Minnesota in a rivalry game. I feel like that's going to be a game where Wisconsin needs the win to get to that 6th win. So I'm going to give it to them, but like I said, not overly confident at this point.
No bowl. I don't think that Wisconsin's in a good place right now. And here's the problem about that game at Nebraska, a team we'll talk about in just a little bit. They got to get that game too. That's one of the games on Nebraska's remaining schedule where they're like, oh my goodness, like, we need to have the urgency of being able to get there. I don't love that place, but I think Minnesota is just playing so much better than Wisconsin right now. Unless the Badgers are able to really turn things around, I think that they're going to end up taking a couple losses. You know, the Oregon game could be one of those that's just a little bit deflating and tough to get up off the mat for. I'm putting W's and L's all over the place with my Big Ten predictions the rest of the way, and I'm just struggling to move Wisconsin onto the right side. I'm going to go no bowl for the Wisconsin Badgers. All right, what about the Michigan Wolverines? They are going to be on CBS at Indiana this week. After that, they've got an off week, then their home finale against Northwestern, and then at Ohio State. They are 5-4. All right, Tom, I'll let you get first crack at this one. Michigan, bowl or no bowl?
They better get to a bowl. Like, I don't know if they're going to beat Indiana this week, and I don't know that they're going to beat Ohio State. But if this Michigan team can't beat Northwestern, there are bigger problems than we realize. I do think that they get that win. They might be 6-6. It won't be pretty. Nobody will be happy about it. It's not going to be a bowl game that Wolverines fans want to travel to. But I do think they'll get to a bowl, yes.
Yeah, I have a hard time seeing Northwestern score enough on Michigan to truly win that game. So I'm going to go ahead and go with bowl. But man, it's crazy to me that we're playing bowl or no bowl with Michigan in November, right? Like needing to beat Northwestern, and that's even a question on today's show, but it is. And I think that says a lot about how far this program has fallen with the coaching change from Harbaugh to Sherrone Moore. But I am going to go Bowl. I don't think Northwestern's going to win in the Big House.
Ditto. I think it's 6-6 is the final tally, which is well below their win total to start the season. They'll probably start playing some young guys. I do worry some about guys opting out or getting injured or whatever you want to read in between that assumption at the end of the season. But I would assume even with some backups and younger guys playing, they would be able to beat Northwestern. So I think 6-6 is the final tally, which would get them to a bowl. Although, like you guys said, I don't know how well they travel to that one.
Have we talked about this yet? First of all, my answer is bowl, but like, if there's a Michigan, Ohio State, wouldn't it be hilarious? Like, there's a universe, right? It's like a small percentage universe, a very small percentage universe, but there's a wouldn't it be hilarious there? But no. I think they've got it taken care of. I think they do it against Northwestern. I also have Michigan as a bowl team. The Washington Huskies, it's been a little bit up and down in year one as a Big Ten member. They are currently 5-4 overall. They are at Penn State this weekend. Then after that, they play UCLA at home. Then they are off. Then they are at Oregon. You got Penn State. You got Oregon. You still need one more game there. Bud, Washington, bowl or no bowl?
I got to stick with my bold prediction from the preseason, which was that Washington was going to miss a bowl. So I'm going no bowl. I think Penn State gets them. I think Oregon gets them, and I think UCLA finds the way to pull the upset. That's a hard sandwich game to play, by the way. I mean, you got to go to Penn State and then Oregon, and by the way, UCLA, which, like, they're not good, but they haven't quit on the season. Like, they're still playing hard. I think UCLA clips them. I think Washington misses a bowl.
Woo! But you can always go to the ace in the hole, which is if you guys beat UCLA, we'll give you off a couple more days on the bye week, which follows that one. And I think Jedd Fisch plays that card. I think they get their best performance against UCLA, who is a hot team. I don't know if it's going to be a resounding win, but I'll say they squeak by and go 6-6. Again, I don't see them beating Penn State or Oregon on the road, even going well-rested to Oregon and potentially with Oregon, their eyes on the Big Ten championship game. I do think they get UCLA, though, and get the win there.
Danny's playing chess with these days off theory here. I think they get to a bowl. Like, I think they have I don't think they're going to beat Penn State, but I don't think it's insane to think that they can beat Penn State. And I think that game against UCLA, it is kind of strange because if you look at the Bruins, they have not been good, but all three of their wins have come on the road. So the fact that this game's in Seattle might not be to Washington's benefit. I still think the Huskies get it, though. They're going bowling.
I actually think it is to the Huskies' benefit. Great point on the UCLA side of this, but I was thinking about how Jedd Fisch and this team have been pretty good in Husky Stadium. That Michigan game was so big, and they were able to come out with the win. USC, another crucial game for Washington during this season. That game in Husky Stadium, they were able to get a win. I think that this has been a pretty good home team. I think they're able to maintain that. Mark me down as bowl for the Washington Huskies. Okay. Nebraska Cornhuskers. I said other teams are going to be desperate too. Nebraska is 5-4. They are off this week. They will be back in action at USC on November the 16th. Then they have Wisconsin in their home finale at Iowa. I mean, USC, Wisconsin, Iowa's. I mean, those are three pretty tough games, but you just need one of them. Danny, does Matt Rule get Nebraska after a long layoff finally back into the postseason?
I was bullish on this team coming into the season. I thought they could be undefeated at the point going to Ohio State, which they did put up a pretty good fight in that game. But I've also been giving out bowl games like Oprah gives out cars. I'm going to say Nebraska loses out. Matt Rule was at the podium, asked about the problems with the offense, and he let out a sigh that I don't even know if you could describe. Like, it was a sigh of desperation, so much so they're bringing back former coaches and weren't even there, and Dana Holgerson to try to get those extra ears and extra insight, and hasn't even been announced exactly what his role is going to be. Now you got Dylan Raiola with a back. Like, I wonder how long that could potentially crop up. I'm going to say they miss a bowl, lose out the season for a devastating finish to year 2 for Matt Rule.
You know, Danny, I think that sigh was kind of a knowing sigh of, man, I'm going to have to make a move on my boy Satterfield, the offensive coordinator, who we've said for years on Cover 3 was a really bad hire. terrible track record. And, if they weren't tight, like, would he really have hired him? I'd be pretty shocked given the track record, but he did. And it's definitely been a terrible hire that's cost Nebraska some games. This was the toughest decision for me. And I'm going to go ahead and go no bowl. There's too many variables here, especially with the Raiola injury. But I kind of think that's what that sigh was, dude. He's going to have to make some changes.
You guys have way too much faith in USC and Wisconsin. I mean, they're going to go to USC after the bye week. That place is going to be a mausoleum. People weren't showing up to the stadium the last few weeks when USC still had something to play for. Now that they're 4-5, nobody's going to be showing up there. They're going to win one of their final 3 games. I don't think it's going to be pretty. I don't think it's going to be a blowout, but they're going to get one. They'll end up in a bowl game.
Yeah, I am also on the bowl side of this, and this is, me trying to have some integrity here. If I'm going to go Wisconsin, no bowl, part of that is thinking that I would pick Nebraska in that game. That would get them to 6 wins. All right, what about the Michigan State Spartans? Off this week, their remaining schedule is at USC, Wisconsin, at Iowa. Tom, can Michigan State get 2 of those 3 and be bowl eligible?
It's not going to be easy. I don't know. Like, Illinois is not playing well right now, so I think going on the road there in 2 weeks and beating the Illini is not impossible for the Spartans, but they have to look a lot more like the team that was playing Iowa than they have in the Michigan or Indiana games. Purdue, they should win at home. It could very much come down to that Rutgers game, and Rutgers right now, not to play spoiler alert for our next pick, is not playing very good football. So I'm going to say Michigan State gets there, but by the skin of their teeth. It won't be easy at all.
I'm going to say no bowl. I think their turnover problems are pretty significant. It's still a very young team. The depth is not really probably where it needs to be. And they're going to need Childs to play like perfect games. And his style of play means they can pull upsets, but also it means like even the Purdue game to me is losable. So I'm going to say no bowl for the Spartans. That team keeps improving and growing.
Rutgers has lost 4 games in a row. I think that's the game that makes the difference for Michigan State. All they got to do is win 2 out of 3. I think Purdue is the gimme one that I'm going to give them that one. I don't even know if I'm that convinced that they definitely lose at Illinois, but I think they get 2 or 3 at home. So I'll say they're bowling.
Yeah, I'm going to say Michigan State is bowl. Classic, year one theory for me that those first-year coaches, sometimes at the end of the season, you start to see them really starting to put it together. And I like being able to get those 2 opponents both in your house to close out the season. I say Michigan State is bowling. All right, Danny, what about those Rutgers Scarlet Knights? 4-4. A lot of meat left on the bone for them. They are Minnesota at Maryland, Illinois at Michigan State. Greg Schiano talking about getting 1 win better every single year, having conversations with us at a Big Ten Media Days. They're not going to be 1 win better unless they win them all, I guess. But what are they even bowling?
So they're a touchdown underdog to Minnesota, and Minnesota's been playing really good football. I think they lose that one. I just was talking about Michigan State. I gave Michigan that win. So that means they've got to win both on the road at Maryland, at home against Illinois. I'm going to say they do not. I'm going to say they finish the season with 5 wins, coming well short of the 6 needed. I'm going to say they miss a bowl game.
I think they're healthier now. And to me, that is the large reason for the slide. I mean, they played Nebraska close. They were totally banged up against Wisconsin. UCLA was a total dogfight. USC, not really competitive. But again, the bye week came, I believe, at the right time for Rutgers. I think they can get 2 more wins. I'm going to say Rutgers goes bowling.
I need to see what Kyle Monangai looks like after the bye, because he did get hurt late in that USC game and did not play late in the game. So I don't know what kind of health he's in, if he's going to be ready, how healthy he's going to be for these final 4 games. The bye does help, but I do think the schedule hurts in that the 2 most beatable opponents left on Rutgers' schedule are both road games, which kind of ups the difficulty a little bit. So as for now, I'm going to go they're finishing 5-7 and missing a bowl.
All right, last one here. Maryland 4-4 right now. Remaining schedule includes at Oregon this week, Rutgers at home, Iowa at home, and then at Penn State. Bud, I see an Oregon. I see a Penn State. I see an Iowa. Yikes. Does Mike Loxley get this team to the postseason?
No. I'm going to refer back to my preseason notes, which literally say Bet Maryland against teams that don't have good D lines. Fade them against teams that do. And I see Oregon, I see Iowa, I see Penn State, and I see Rutgers defense that, like I said, hopefully they're a little healthier. They can still get after it. I think they lose out and miss a bowl. So no, I think Maryland's going to go 4-8, and they should have got it done earlier. Losing Michigan State and losing Northwestern, that's kind of fatal.
Yeah, that Northwestern loss really kind of put the nail in the coffin of Maryland's bowl hopes. If they do win a game, it'll be the Rutgers game, but even that I'm not super confident in. But like Bud, I have very low confidence in their ability to beat either Penn State, Oregon, or Iowa. So no bowl for the Terps.
You know what's interesting is I'm on the same page as all of you guys saying they miss, but all of us chalking up a lot of wins for the Iowa Hawkeyes. What looks like it could be a 9-3 season for Iowa. I know this wasn't the exercise, but I think I'm going to say Maryland misses the bowl as well. I'll say they do get the home game against Rutgers. They win that one 5-7 to finish, but miss out on the bowl.
Yeah, I've got no bowl as well for the Terps. So big games ahead. We'll see. Maybe come back and grade some of these at season's end.